Right. So I will go a bit more into the details of the background and what was our journey and motivation and how we got finally here. So the data point model journey has started already in 2012 in the first large reporting framework that EBA has published, and through these years we have been evolving with successive releases of the data dictionary from the first version to the current one. So everything has been, let's say, accumulating into the DPM, keeping track of all changes across all releases. And during this time, the fundamental structure of the DPM has not had any significant changes. So the database has been growing quite a lot. There has been lots of many tables added, but the fundamental structure has remained basically the same until that we found the need to embark on this project to refit the DPM. Right. So, okay, in this slide, I'm showing what has been the evolution of the DPM at EBA, throughout all these years. So as you can see, the number of defined data points has grew quite a lot. So like 2.5 times since we started. You can see our core app has been growing like two times more data points, and also FinRep, and basically also much more new frameworks that have been added throughout the releases. We have kind of 13 major releases from 2014 when we started collecting the data. In the next slide, I'm showing now the figures related to the stored fact values, the values that we receive at the DPM. So as you can see, until 2020, the growth rate has been more or less proportional to the increase of data points until we reached December 2020, and the big let's say increase or the sharp increase on data is actually related to the fact that we started collecting from whole banks instead of just the much smaller sample of large banks. So on the next slide, please. This is something okay, important to share, which is how do we see the DPM data dictionary? So because there are, let's say, more than one perspectives on this. So first of all, of course, the DPM is storing the content of that defines the reporting requirements. So it's loaded with metadata where all concepts are described throughout all framework releases. But the DPM, of course, and this is what we are doing with DPM Refit, is also, it needs to have a meta model that defines basically what are the rules for modeling, what is the language, and what is the format for storing the metadata. There's also an implicit methodology, well, not even implicit, there is a methodology that will define the regulatory data requirements, how they can be defined, and what are the specific modeling techniques, which, by the way, in the DPM Refit, we are also addressing this and changing it a bit. So just to position the DPM Refit, it will basically is focusing on the meta model and also on the methodology. There is, of course, also the need for the DPM to become effective. We need tools. So it's a very complicated data dictionary. The process is very complicated also. So tools are required to actually develop the different releases, and this is something that we have already started to do under the DRR project, also together with IOPA. So can you touch next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there is let's say different levels. As I said, the semantic level, which is about the content. the syntactic level, which is the meta model itself. Then the methodology, of course, defines rules, methods, etc. And we have the infrastructure. Can you move?
Yeah, I
Again,
also passed the controls to you, Carlos, so you shall be able to control it yourself maybe now.
Okay, good. That's let me then try. So just to give let's say a more historical perspective on what's been happening since the beginning. So when we first started, or let's say before we started, there was already of course a process going on, and there were some methods to use the DPM. It was basically very much based on Excel and a very much manual process. But the purpose of the DPM was at the time basically as a method to collect, to define, report the requirements, to be able to analyze them, and ultimately to support the building of the XBRL taxonomy. We started then in this initial phase in 2012. We started developing the release 2.0, which was actually from EBA the first big release with a much bigger COREP and FINREP frameworks. And basically, what was done at that time was to publish, was to develop, to formalize the model, and then to implement the model in a database, in an access database. So this was changing quite a lot the process, and what we have done. The way that we were developing it changed quite a lot, and what was the inputs and outputs became very different. Sorry, the control is not so great, but okay, let me try to continue. Yeah, okay, it's moving. Then there was another major change in 2016. And this is where we developed, let's say, an application, access-based application, to manage the DPM, and therefore everything all the processes that we were previously doing with other tools outside the database, they were included in the database with the user interface and the automatic derivation of all the data points, and the following from one release to the next. Everything was now, let's say, transferred, being in control of the business experts that are in charge of developing the DPM, and the IT side would continue then with some additional validations, and then basically with the definition of the taxonomy. So this is basically where we are now. And the next step then, having the DPM Refit in place, and developing also the RR tooling, is basically to include the end-to-end process into let's say a seamless flow of activities, which will be everything will be basically supported by the DPM Refit, and also supported by the new tools that we are developing. So next, something that Mary alluded already in their presentation. What is the role of the DPM at EBA? Well, basically, it covers, it's the core component of all our reporting ecosystem, from the data definition to data acquisition and then to data exploration. Mary already talked about this. It's not in this case something that we are let's say planning to do. Is something that we do already. We just need to do it, let's say, more easily and to cover additional needs. So there are some systems which connect directly to these phases. So you all have heard of Euclid, which is basically our reporting platform dealing with data acquisition, basically. For the data definition, we have the DRR, we have the current process, of course, but we are developing the DRR tooling together with IOPA to cover all these phases, from taking the ITS, the modeling the data and the validation rules, and then defining or generating the reporting specifications. And we have started already now with another large project, which is basically complementing, or let's say it's an extension of Euclid, now from the for the going downstream from data acquisition to the data exploitation. So how to transform the data, how to store data in different layers, data curation, data analytics, data dissemination, external access to data. All of this is in scope of this new project that is now starting also. So use cases, there are really a lot of them. I'm not going into the detail. I will invite you if you feel the curiosity to see the slides later, but there are really a high number of use cases at EBA that all of them make to a more or less extent use of the DPM. So yeah, the DPM and XBRL have been seen as a very, tightly coupled artifacts, like if they were, let's say, two sides of the same coin. And there are, let's say, reasons for this, because both of them share a number of features as data dictionaries. So the formal data definition of concepts, the glossary of the business terminology, they are both referring to dimensional data definitions. They enable template rendering, and this is what makes them, let's say, common to a certain extent. The point is, from our perspective, there are a lot more features which are not common between XBRL and DPM. So our perspective is, and basically has always been, that these are two very different artifacts. So we have DPM, and from the DPM we derive XBRL, but they are not the same. They don't really offer the same capabilities. So the motivation for the DPM refit. Let's now look at this, but in a way, both Anna Teresa and Mary already have discussed a bit of this. But going a bit deeper, so throughout the years, the evolution of reporting requirements has been quite extensive. So we are using the DPM for data collections which were not foreseen in the beginning, much more diverse data. We began soon using the DPM throughout the whole life cycle, from data integration to exploration, as I said. And this basically triggered a number of, let's say, shortcomings in the model, and we felt the need to address it. So the future will bring other challenges, like much more granular data. We have, let's say, a number of reasons, accumulated reasons, to initiate this revision of the DPM. And then when we found that there is the opportunity, we started this. So again, thinking of the future, we need something that is, let's say, future proof. And the current DPM, as I said, has some limitations. So that's basically why we decided, okay, time to move to a next phase. And then we discussed this with IOPA, because we felt that basically our problems are basically the same. So even though we are talking about two different data domains, but in terms of processes, of techniques, of formats, the methodology, everything is more or less the same, but not quite exactly the same. So basically, we saw the opportunity to have full convergence of approaches at the EBA and IOPA. We would benefit from it, of course, but not only the ISIS, but also the other stakeholders. So authorities that are dealing with both reporting frameworks, of course, it will be a huge benefit if they can have only one method, only one data dictionary in terms of structure. The content, of course, will still be different, will still not be integrated until we move a bit further and also achieve the semantic integration. But for the time being, when we talk about the DPM refit, it's about the syntactic level and the methodology. So basically, we decided to run this project together, and we are working on it since already some time, since January. And we've been meeting regularly, and we have basically achieved through these 2 years and a half now, which seemed a long time, but it's also a very complicated problem. But we are now in a position where we basically have, at least as far as I know, addressed all points that need to be addressed, and we will now start with some POCs on some concrete examples outside, of course, our natural data domains, for which we are sure that it's working fine. So the objectives for this project, it's to redesign the DPM meta model, addressing shortcomings. The approach should be fully consistent between EBA and IOPA. Something important, and this is basically one of the major motivations also. The model should be and is unbiased in respect to any data exchange format. So it's not specifically defined for XBRL XML or for XBRL CSV or for SCMX, but can support any of them the same way. So it should deliver the foundations for the development of tools. Of course, the DRR project is receiving the DPM refit meta model as the input, and then the rest is developing the functionality. And again, it should of course continue to support the entire life cycle of data from the definition to exploration, and it should enable Mary also address this. It should enable the development of new metadata-driven solutions. It does already, but there are additional needs which we are now addressing also with the new DPM refit. In terms of the vision, what are the main aspects? The total convergence I mentioned already. A unified meta model that can be applicable to all data exchanges, either for highly aggregated data points, like the ones that we have on these template-based frameworks, to very granular data sets, which are more typical to statistics, but they also happen with supervision and resolution, of course. The DPM defined as ISO standard is also something that we have in mind. And once we have the syntactic aspect resolved, then the subsequent semantic integration is something which hopefully can also happen, and it will be, let's say, much facilitated by having a model and a tool that we can use to work on semantic integration of different data domains or dictionaries from different data domains. In terms of the capabilities, so typically on this axis, you see aggregate versus granular data, relational versus dimensional, quantitative versus qualitative, and the current DPM is a bit, let's say, biased towards aggregated data points, dimensional definition, and quantitative data. With the DPM refit, we want to basically to address the other dimensions in the same way. So should also be equally adequate to qualitative data, to relational data, meaning being able to relate different data sets, typically as we do with foreign keys, primary keys, and to address also granular data in an optimal way. The DPM built-in blocks. So what do we have in the DPM refit? We have, of course, the block to deal with definition of data requirements. We have the data modeling itself. I mean, data requirements. I mean, defining the templates, basically the data sets. Then going deeper into the modeling, defining what exactly is the meaning of each individual variable or data point. We have validation rules, and we have transformations of data to derive data points, new data points from existing data points. And all of this should refer to a common data glossary, which is basically the thing that will also enable the semantic integration between different domains. So you can relate this, of course, to what we know now by domains and dimensions and members and hierarchies and this type of model objects. The data storage and the data exchange, of course, they are very, very related to this, but let's say this is not the scope of the DPM refit. We will anyway address data storage and data exchange as another, let's say, derivation from this work. But let's say the model itself is not going to deal with data storage and data exchange. Key features for the DPM refit: agnostic. So I said it already, not bound to any particular data exchange standard. It will enable rendering because in our reporting frameworks, we have very complicated templates, which should somehow be able to be rendering on screen, and people should be able to visualize data in this type of layout. Historization, of course, so we keep track, and we need to continue keeping track of individual changes of the data dictionary concepts across all releases, so this will not go away. And with the refit, and this is what is new basically, we want a unified data model, which a single data model that can support all types of data sets, as I said, templates, other types of data sets from statistics. Should be a versatile model, so compatible with different approaches. And again, I mean, in some cases, we will need to continue to collect aggregated data and based on templates. In other cases, we may be talking more about cubes, more granular data. So all of this should be possible to be covered in the DPM refit, and relationships also to support the primary keys, foreign keys is also part of the model. And finally, this is a final slide. So we need, of course, to make the transition from the current DPM to the DPM refit, and we will have a period of overlap. So currently, what we expect is, so the DPM refit itself is at the moment, let's say, very, very already final. Doesn't mean that we cannot change a couple of things, but the structure and the main concepts, that I think they are very, very final. We are working on developing of tools. The current expectation is that we will have an MVP, so a minimum viable product, by the first quarter of next year, meaning we can then start using this tool to make use of the new DPM meta model, so DPM Refit. So for the next releases that will come after March, we will expect to be publishing the EBA reporting framework already, referring to the DPM Refit, but we will continue to make the current version available. So there will be, of course, the need to have some downgrade, because not all concepts, let's say, are also available in the current DPM. But we will continue basically to allow the other stakeholders to adapt. We will continue to publish the DPM in this in the current version of the model, in principle until end 2024. So we will have, I think, a period of 1.5 years where we continue to publish both versions. There is a parallel thing going on with the XBRL. I'm not going to address this specifically, but as you also know, we are moving from the current XBRL XML based data exchange format to XBRL CSV, which has a huge number of advantages. The transition for this, it's a bit, let's say, longer, and currently we have defined that this will go. So let's say the cutoff date should be on December 2025. And yeah, and with this, I think I arrived to the end of the presentation. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.